Hey, what's going on, guys? Bflattened here with a brand new build for you today. This is Infl4ksibility, the 3-shot fadeaway flak build. Now, I'm not very good at 3-shot fadeaway or fadeaway in general, but I decided to try my hand on it finally, and this is the build that I came up with. So, in their green tree, we're using Furious Attack all the way up to max. The stacks for the Hunter skill is very, very good, and the gun damage increasing is also very viable for this build. I put 1 point into self-repairing system because the health regen at only 1 point into it is not too bad, and it also helps us move down the tree a little bit. 1 to eager to impress because we're using head count. This is not going to be proccing that often in regards to head count, but 1 point into eager is also pretty decent because you're getting a lot of kills, and it can proc pretty often. I put 1 point into all my BFFs because I don't feel a need for 3 points into here. 17% for 1 point is very, very good. And I noticed that having 1 point in here, my survivability is actually a lot better than it is without having 1 point in here at all. And then I do overclock for 5 points because fire rate is very, very good with Furious Attack. It is probably one of my favorite combinations on Flak to use. I use another red tree skill with this occasionally, and that is second intention for reload speed, but we'll get to the red tree in just a second and why these three together are very good together. And then I use 3 points into turntail and run. Whenever we're moving, we get regeneration HP and damage reduction, or if we're standing still, especially in fadeaway, we get fire rate and gun damage. Lick the wounds for 1 point is very, very good because you have your pet get 30% extra damage for a full minute if it revives you, and your pet can revive you. The Fast and the Furious, when you're above half your HP, your gun damage and movement speed are increased, and your pet also increases damage. We're regenning a lot of HP, so this is very good to have that extra gun damage. An extra 25% is always a good thing. Hidden Machine, when your enemy has no target or is attacking a different target like your pet, you do 30% increased damage against that target. Since we're getting in and out of fadeaway so quickly, we lose aggro so often that this is almost always proccing. And then finally, the power inside. If your HP is at full, since we're regenerating a lot of HP, your damage is increased to double of 25%, which is 50. If you are activated an action skill and you're not at full HP, it's 25%. Since we're getting in and out of fadeaway so quickly, this is almost always active, and if you're at full HP, you get double it anyways. So with fadeaway, I'm using Not My Circus, so every time we leave fadeaway, our pet taunts the crowds, and it makes it so that our hidden machine can proc even further, because everyone's looking at your pet instead. And your pet also takes damage reduction, which is perfect for the HP regen stuff that we have for our pet. And then Unblinking Eye, if I get successful targets on the same target for critical hits, I do bonus damage against them. Until You Are Dead is kind of decent if you want to do the health regen and movement speed, but usually Unblinking Eye is one of my favorites. Drills in the Mist is okay if you're okay with losing the attack damage, but your fadeaway no longer ends whenever you shoot. However, I don't like this one because we don't have our action skills resetting as often as they do, and 3-shot fadeaway doesn't call for drills in the mist that often. I do no trees in the purple, and I do a little bit in blue here. We do 1 for Go for the Eyes and 1 for Ferocity just to move down the tree, and 3 to Persistent Hunter for the gun damage. 1 point into Heat Bite so that our pet can proc damage reflect, and also it stacks Frenzy, which is 2 points from our class mod, and we also purchased a few points in here as well. Who Rescued Who is actually a pretty good skill because whenever Flak's pet deals damage, your Flak regenerates HP for a bit, and whenever Flak deals damage to an enemy, their pet's health is restored for a portion of the damage dealt. So basically, someone was in chat the other day and was like, why is Who Rescued Who that good? So whenever your pet deals damage, you as yourself regenerate HP. Now this can come from any source of damage. Heat Bites damage, stacking from Frenzy, whether it's a crit from your Ferocity, whether it's a crit from your Go for the Eyes. However your pet is doing damage, including Reflect, you regenerate HP for 0.4% of that. And then whenever you do damage, your pet gets 1% of the damage dealt into pet health. So if we're swinging for tons of crit damage over and over and over again constantly, your pet is restoring 1% of that HP so that it can stay alive. So if we're swinging for 1 trillion, that's 1% of 1 trillion. That's a lot of damage, and that's a lot of HP. Your pet is going to be getting a lot of HP regen just from this one skill and 1 point alone. For extra measures, there is Fl4k taking damage. A portion of all the damage take is shared to their pet instead. So whenever we take damage, our pet takes the damage for us a little bit. And that's also going to be good for who rescued who, because it takes damage and then it restores it right back. And it also keeps our survivability up a little bit further. And finally, into Red Tree, this is where our damage is going to be coming from mostly. Interplanetary Stalker and Hunter's Eye are going to be maxed out here. Whenever Fl4k kills an enemy, you get a stack of Interplanetary Stalker. You get damage, you get bonuses against other targets, like robots, humans, and beasts. And Hunter's Eye, you get critical damage against humans, armor against robots, and damage reduction against beasts. These two go hand in hand very well together, so having 5 points in each is very recommended. So Leave No Trace is actually a very good skill. Whenever you score a critical hit by any means, you have a chance to add 1 ammo back to your magazine at 36%. And then Second Intention, this was a skill I was talking about earlier with the reload speed and the Furious Attack Overclock combo. So you get increased fire rate. And then Second Intention is your bonus is increased by if Fl4k scores a critical hit, and you gain increased reload speed for that. So whenever you get increased reload speed, your fire rate is going to be comboing off of that, and whenever you're hitting an enemy, Furious Attack is always proccing. Furious Attack always proccing with fire rate increase and reload speed always increase, goes hand in hand really well together. It's a great utility. And then we get 3 points into Big Game. The Hunter skills become much more effective and have longer duration. Your skill effects go up by 30% and your duration goes up by 100%. Anything that has like a timer on it, you get increases on that. I totally miss head count, which is actually one of the main parts of this, the build. We talked about it earlier instead of Eager to Impress. Whenever you score a critical hit, there's a chance your action skill cooldown is reduced. We use not only guns, but we use our Hunter Seeker grenades so that we can proc this as well. And then the most dangerous game, you want to max this out for sure, and you also want to have 3 points into your class mod going into the most dangerous game. This is one of your main skills. So whenever Fl4k kills a badass or stronger enemy, you get crit hit, gun damage, and handling for a long time, and your pet gets increased damage. So whenever you have this at 6 out of 3, you have a 2-minute counter on it, along with Big Game increasing that to 4 minutes, which is double. And then you get increased damage by 50%, increased 20% damage, and your pet gets 54% extra damage. This thing is insane. And then Galactic Shadow, you get increased critical hit damage, and enemies are less likely to attack them. This goes hand in hand with your Green Tree, and this got a hidden buff recently. So there is a less likely chance of your enemies to attack you. And then finally, the creme de la creme, Megavore. Whenever you have a shot that is not a crit, you have a 20% chance for it to be a crit, just anywhere. And into our gear and guns here, we have the back burner, just for our second wind, if in case we need it. Maggie for single target enemies, and our reflux for mobbing, just all sorts of chains and stuff like that is going to be proccing a lot. We use an Old God for bonus radiation and bonus shock damage. The shock damage is going into the action skill and bonus shock, and the radiation is going to be our action skill. Whenever we leave Fade Away, it's always proccing. Our Hunter Seeker is doing bonus fire damage, so now we're doing corrosive damage, shock damage, that's increased, radiation damage, and fire damage. That is 4 different types of elements, and that's going to go into our Spider and Scorcher. You have 10% increase of elemental damage, so that's 40% because it's 10% per element. And then we're working with a Bounty Hunter. I found that the Bounty Hunter was actually better than the Cosmic Stalker, however that could be a completely up to you kind of thing. There's a few different ones to play around with. Stackbot, Cosmic Stalker, Bounty Hunter, the top 3 class mods for Fl4k these days. And then we have a Pearl with mag size and fire rate, so we can get an extra shot of our reflux, which has a chance to get Leave No Trace, which is more ammo into the reflux. So you're hardly ever reloading, and when you do, it's increased. So your fire rate is going to be increased, and your reload speed is also going to be increased anyways, in case you have to get to that point. And then your fire rate is increased, so this is going to be working off of the 3-set skill that we were talking about earlier, with Second Intention, Furious Attack, and Overclocked. And that is the build in gear and skill tree wise. Let's put it a little bit to the test with some mobs and some boss in here. And you'll get to see exactly how it works. So standing still, 1, 2, 3, we leave fade away. Now all of our action skills are active. Now, a thing that I don't do very often, but I should be, and if I was a better Fl4k player, I would be doing this more often. Whenever you're in your second shot of fadeaway, so here's our first one, here's our second one, mind he died, that's our second one, you should be throwing a Hunter Seeker at this point right here, whenever you're on your second shot of fade, because when you do your third shot, your Hunter Seekers are already out seeking out targets, and they're going to be looking to proc head count for you, so you can get your action skill back right away. It makes it so you can enter fadeaway and leave fadeaway, and all of your action skill ends are always going to be procced. This is very, very vital and important to making sure that you are staying alive, and also always in your action skill and leaving your action skill. Very, very crucial to the build. As you can see, once you get to a certain point with Furious Attack and once you get to a certain point of stacking your Pearl properly, as long as you have those two together, you're pretty much one-shotting enemies. However, there's a bunch of other skills that are going to be giving you done damage or crit damage, things like that. We're at full HP as well, so power inside is actually proccing for double its intended damage at 50%. Which is excellent, that's what we want. Our pet is pulling the aggro for us, so Hidden Machine is also working in our favor here. Whenever we leave our fadeaway, we also have All My Circus, so that our pet also distracts even more enemies. As you can see, that guy's not targeting me, that's extra damage against him. This guy's not targeting me, that's going to be extra damage against him when we fight him. Whenever he wants to stay still. Extra damage, he's gone. And now we can get to our boss right away, and we can enter fadeaway. And we want to throw a couple Hunter Seekers just so that we can leave fadeaway safely. And with all that damage increased, he's gone. Increase reload speed. Back into fadeaway because we hit enough crits. Now, one thing to keep in mind with the reflex is that the chains can also crit because of Megavore, and it can also crit when you're in fadeaway. These crits do count for Hunter Seeker, or these crits do count for head count, and Hunter Seeker also counts for crits because a Hunter Seeker is a special grenade that throws out gun damage instead, and that gun damage can crit. So remember to always keep that in mind. This is essentially the build. There's nothing else much to it. Your reflex can do single target boss damage very well, and the Maggie also does some single target stuff if it's like a mob that you don't want to kill with the reflex and you can't chain to. There's a lot of other things you could play around with. The unseen threat with 390 is fun. You can play with a complex route if you want to blow things up. There's a Hellwalker in here with consecutive hits and next 2 mags that also do a ton of damage. The Cosmic Stalker and the stack bot that we were talking about earlier. There's a one-shotter shield in here. It's only level 60, but it still does a ton of damage because you have all that distraction. You don't have to worry about the low 12,000% shield. It's Pitch Grenade if you want to debuff stuff. Cutburst Launchpad for Guardian Takedown. And that is pretty much it, guys. That is Infl4k. I hope you guys liked the build. If you guys did, make sure to like and subscribe for more builds on Borderlands, tips and tricks and guides on Borderlands as well. My name is Bflattened. I'm signing on out of here. Take care, all. Laters.